My name is Ian and welcome to Planted. Now in this video I want to introduce you, or maybe reintroduce you, to three bulletproof plants that are in the group called perennials. That is, they die down in the winter and they come next spring with nice fresh growth. Wonderful group of plants, and these three plants are Rodgersia, Epimedium and Polygonatum, and we're going to feature these in this video. So the first one is Rodgersia, and you can see I've got a couple of juvenile plants here, and I was actually able to propagate these by splitting the crown the end of last year. They've come through the winter, and because they've been in a cold greenhouse, they've actually put out new growth sooner than they would outside. But I just love this palmate foliage. There's a number of different types of Rodgersia. I cannot talk about this enough. Beautiful. So more about that in a moment. The next on our list of our three beautiful perennials is Epimedium. Now, Epimedium is widely available. It's slow to bulk up, and as with all three of these plants, they tend to be at the higher price scale. There are cheaper plants and they make it through to the market very, very easily, but the higher price plants sometimes don't get to the market because they're too expensive, unless you go to a specialist nursery. Now with Epimedium, they come in all sorts of flower colors and foliage sizes, and you'll see more of that shortly. I've got a tiny little one, and the leaves are but this size. It's just spectacular. I'm going to show you that later in the summer when it's beautifully set up to grow. And then you get some with very, very large foliage, and then everything in between. So different flower colors and different leaf shape make Epimedium an absolute winner. And then to round out the trio, Rodgersia, Epimedium, we've got Polygonatum. Now this is a very choice one called Hokkaido Smoke. I got this from a specialist nursery on the west coast. I had hoped it would have bulked up a bit more than it has, but we're getting there. And I just love this very gentle, luxurious foliage. As with all of them, foliage is very, very prominent. The nice thing about Polygonatum is that it has these arching stems, and then you get the flower bud on the stem, which will then drop down. It's like a ladder of flowers in beautiful long racemes, and you'll see more of those soon. Polygonatum is available in lots of different heights and sizes. This one is one of the shorter ones, a foot or less. And then you've got some Polygonatums, majority are 2 feet high, but I've even found, and I think I've got access to it, or at least a line to buy it, a source to buy it, and it reaches 4 foot high. So that's hot on my list to add to my collection. Do buy these in multiples. Obviously you could go out and you could buy one Rodgersia, one Polygonatum, and one Epimedium. Planted en masse is when they're at their finest. If you're going to go and get one of these, dare I say it, go and get 10. And the same with the Polygonatum and the Epimedium. Wonderful plants. They look best when mass planted rather than just dotted around. So let's go and look at each of these in more detail. Our first plant is the remarkable Rodgersia. Huge foliage, very architectural. You see here we've got the blush color with kind of a bronze cast. And all of that starts from these little nubbies that come out of the ground in mid-spring. And you have to be careful. They're very, very tender, very delicate. And if you have a contractor come in and spread some mulch, these little stems are very easily damaged. But relatively quickly, over the space of 10 days to 2 weeks, they start to put out new foliage and they open up to a beautiful display. This was a specialist nursery that had bought in a few hundred of these little juvenile plants, as you can see here. Clearly this is destined to be quite the remarkable show in time to come. These are the culmination of a division I did 5 months ago, and these are my little Rodgersia, which I'm so happy about. They're going to get planted 2 feet apart, and hopefully they can really fatten up and fill out in a dappled, shaded environment and give me this beautiful palmate foliage. And I encourage anybody to give this a go. Rodgersia are not widely available. They're not hard to find, but they're not going to be at every garden centre that you go to. And all I did was dig up my crown in October, November of last year, and very, very carefully started to break it apart. And each crown needs to have a shoot, and that's what you see me doing here. We take off just a little nubby, and that will become a new plant in time again. But with perennials, it takes time for the roots to establish in the winter months because they're dormant. So it's not until spring that you actually find out if they're alive or not. And of the 6 that I took, I've got 5 that are beautiful, and there's 1 that's just a little bit late, but I fully expect it to thrive in this setting. So Rodgersia, there's a number of different species, lots of different name varieties, well worth having, and I hope you can find some to go into your garden. Our next plant is the ever remarkable Epimedium. These are beautiful, similar to Rodgersia in that they are choice, they're special, but there's a lot more choices when it comes to the flowers. As you see here, we've got pink and yellow side by side, and when the wind blows through them, they just dance and shimmer. Epimedium are very good at dry shade. They're one of the few plants that will take that, and there are others. But you can find a color that goes with your color palette, and you're going to be rewarded with this fresh, bright, very healthy new foliage that helps you cast off last winter's grey and somewhat damaged foliage. This is an Epimedium called Sandy Claus. Bought it a few years ago. Fell in love with it. And here we are in mid-spring, and I'm very, very carefully going through and pruning out all of last year's foliage. And that is the green foliage that you can see here. And the reason I'm doing it is I want to make space for the bronze foliage, which is the new foliage, to take over. Last year's foliage is a bit beaten up. It's desiccated in some areas. And what I've learned is that if you leave this another couple of weeks, the bronze foliage really takes over the new foliage, and it's even harder to get in there and carefully separate old foliage from new foliage. When you've done this, the old foliage is no longer shading or preventing the new foliage from filling out. So this plant, in a matter of 10 days, will really look substantially different than it does right now. And I've seen Epimedium left to their own devices, and I think they can look a little bit untidy if you're carrying foliage from year to year. Now, if you're in a milder climate, they might not look quite so beaten up, but here in New England, this is the way to go, and that plant will look exquisite. And finally, we've got Polygonatum. I keep coming back to Polygonatum, as I do with Epimedium and Rodgersia. It's beautiful architecture. Here you see these little shaking leaves on arched stems. This is one called Hokkaido Smoke, and this is more widely available Polygonatum in its natural environment. And what you get is arching stems with this ladder of beautiful flowers that overlap. It's just exquisite. This is planted under a tree, and here you can see that same shimmering effect we get that we got with the Epimedium. It doesn't take much just to shake this new growth. Always like this. There is a very choice one that's about 4 feet high, which I'm trying to get my hands on. Haven't as yet. But with all of these perennials, with a little bit of judicious acquisitioning, I got these gifted to me by a friend of mine, who I'm very, very happy that she let me have them. And I was able to move them early season before they really got going. And this clump was put into my garden, and it grows to this day. So there you go. 3 remarkable, fantastic, exceptional plants that you should grow in your garden, and I hope you will do that. So there you go. 3 plants worth having, easy to grow, widely available in the more common varieties, but you can go as high and as deep into the varieties as you want and actually start collecting them. Epimediums in particular, there's a huge range of them. And if there was more demand for them, they would become more available. And if they were more available, more people could grow them. So thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.